Hey, good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Wow. Thank you so much for being here. I want to welcome you all to Unpack This, the podcast where we unpack the thoughts, habits, relationships, and beliefs that keep us stuck, silent, and shrinking. So it's all about being real. Hey, I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. And guess what? I'm known as the authentic coach. And here we don't just talk about growth, we tell the truth about what it costs, what it takes, and what it means to finally choose you, choose yourself. So I'm just going to say this to you that if you're ready, here's the word, if you are ready for honest conversations, real clarity, and get ready for this unapologetically self awareness. Y'all know that's my favorite word. You're in the right place. So, you know what? We're going to be talking about overextending yourself when helping becomes harmful. So, let's get into it. Let's unpack this. You guys ready? By the way, if you have comments, questions, you can place it in the comment section and I will do my very best to respond to you, get back to you. And if you missed a part of this episode, you can always go back to my YouTube channel and check it out. So, with that being said, here's a question for you. Have you ever looked at your calendar, your inbox, your obligations, and thought, how did I get here? You started with good intentions. You wanted to help. You wanted to support. But the thing is, you really wanted to show up. But somewhere along the way, helping turned into just pure exhaustion. I don't know how many of you out there can relate to this, but I know that I certainly can, which was one of the reasons for me for the first time ever, really having resolutions for 2026. I needed to make some changes. And it wasn't about anybody else, it was about me. And that's one of the things I think that we all have to get to. We need to turn off that thing in our head where we feel like that we're failing someone. We need to always show up for other people. And when you're not even showing up for yourself. And so with all of that, you want to know how did you get here? You felt you were committing, but commitment literally it just turned into resentment. Generosity in itself, it turned into you being depleted. So today I wanted to be talking with you about overextending yourself, what it looks like, why do we even do it, how people sometimes will take advantage of it. And I know that some of you out there can relate to that, right? And most importantly, how to reclaim your time, your energy, and your peace. After all, that's what it's about. And when you don't have peace for yourself, within yourself, then everything else is just kind of haywire, right? The real truth, I want to just remind you, you were not, you're not born to be everything for everyone. And I guess this particular topic resonates probably more with me than so many others. Uh, how I was raised, things that I was shown and taught to do, but I just had this epiphany that I wasn't meant to be everything to everybody. You were actually born to be whole for yourself. So that's why I say on this podcast, unpack this, is because that's what we do. So let's unpack it together. What does it mean to overextend yourself? Well, overextending yourself, it's not just about you being busy, right? It is about saying yes when you know deep inside your spirit is screaming, no, 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 no. It's given when you're already empty. Can I relate? Can you relate? Absolutely. And it's prioritizing other people's needs when you neglect your own. Been there, done that, and I ain't gonna do it no more. Okay? So it looks like uh, you saying yes to projects, and you don't have time for it. It's about you taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, being the go-to person for every single one. And here's the worst part about it: feeling guilty when you rest, feeling afraid to disappoint people. I can't do that no more, no more. See, many of us learned early in life that being valuable, it meant being useful. Ouch. Again, I tell you, I can relate to this. This is meant for me. See, we learned that love was earned through service. We learned that approval came from sacrifice. So we became experts at showing up, even when it cost us our health, our peace, and our own identity, y'all. So I just want to say this, and let me be real clear. Overextension is not generosity. Remember, there are givers and takers in the world. And guess what? The givers get taken, and the takers, they keep taking, right? So, overextension is self abandonment. And, and when I think about self abandonment, there's always a price. So, there is also this ultimate effect of overextending yourself also. And what does that look like? So when we talk about the real consequences, not the surface level stress, but the deeper impact that overextending has on you. First of all, there's the emotional burnout. When you overextend, you don't just get tired, you become emotionally numb. You start to feel irritable, detached, uninspired, unappreciated. Am I like tapping on some nerves here? Invisible. I think that you may find yourself, at least for me, let me just say I'm just saying this. You may find yourself actually thinking, does anyone see how much I do? And then there's the loss of identity when you overextend yourself. When you constantly serve others, you lose track of who you are. You forget. You forget what you like. You forget what you want. You forget what you need. You even forget what your dreams are. I mean, think about that for a moment. Let that settle in your spirit. Think about that for a moment. You know, you forget what your dreams are. And so many of us, we become so caught up with when you do everything for everyone else, you literally do lose your own self identity. You're so busy um, identifying with other folks. And I tell you, there's a price that you pay for that. Your life literally becomes a reaction to other people's needs instead of a reflection of your own purpose. And let's not forget resentment. Ooh, because here's the part. we don't like to admit, right? But you will start resenting the very people you helped. Because guess what? You keep giving, they keep taking, right? You think this is, they never show up for me. Now, and I can two snaps relate to that. They only call when they need something. Again, hello. And here's the thing, you're thinking, if I stop, everything will fall apart. Well, honestly, who gives a crap? You know, because if you're resenting what you're doing, you know, I tell you, you just need to understand this. Resentment is a sign. It's a sign that it, it's not about you being unkind, but that your boundaries are broken. And y'all, if you go back and look at any of the past Unpack episodes, I'll bring it back again. Having boundaries, it is crucial to who you are, right? And then let's talk about just the physical consequences. When you overextend yourself, your body keeps score. Overextension can lead to chronic fatigue, headaches, anxiety, insomnia, even weaken your immune system. So if you think that overextending yourself is, I can do a little bit more, I can do a little bit more, you better stop and check yourself, because all of these things manifest itself in our bodies, guys. That's real. That is so real. Miss Carolyn, thank you for being here. So your body is eventually going to force you to rest. And if you refuse to choose to rest, do I need to say what can, what will happen? Right? So why am I talking about this? As I said, 2026, my resolutions is to be extremely protective of who has access to me. 2026 for me is to be very guarded as it relates to volunteering and doing stuff. Why? Because I too found myself being resentful of always giving, always doing, always being the go-to person, always being the, everyone said, oh, the authentic coach will do it, Gloria will do it, Gloria can. And you know what? I just got damn tired of it. That's the reality. So when we talk about what's going on, when we talk about overextending yourself, how it can become harmful, this is a real topic. And this is why we are unpacking this, you guys. That's the real deal. I just want you to know that. I love it. Yeah, God can sit you down if we don't do it on our own. And I love it. My favorite word, no. No is a complete sentence. Amen. Thank you, Lord. Yes, it is. So it's so important, ladies and gentlemen, that we understand we need to pull back into who we are. That's the thing. We are so afraid of offending people. And I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, your last breath, where will these people be at? Right? So let me unpack how people use you, right? You know, and not only use you and give nothing in return. Let's talk about this. So let's be honest. Not everyone who benefits from your generosity is malicious. That's not what I'm saying. But some people are comfortable with you overgiving. And let me unpack this. Here's how it happened. You teach people how to treat you, right? I think that became so evident for me towards the end of 2025 that I just said, no more. no more. I'm not going to allow people to talk to me a certain way. I'm not going to allow people to disrespect me. I'm not going to allow people to think that they can talk to me at 70 years of age like I'm some child. I'm not your child. But here's the thing we all need to understand is that you actually teach people. You may say you don't, but you teach people how to treat you. Because if you always say yes, people assume yes is your default. If you always fix things, people assume it's your responsibility. And I'm going to tell you, if you always give without setting limits, people will assume you have endless capacity. And guess what? I have endless capacity, but I don't have endless capacity for people who are always taking and never pouring back into me. Again, not being mean, not being malicious, but being real, taking care of me, number one. And I'm going to tell you, there are going to be some people who will take without ever asking, without ever reciprocating, without ever appreciating. And it's not because they're evil. That may not be a good choice of word, but because you made it easy for them. I made it easy for them. So that's why you have to do that. Let me give you a perfect example of how making it easy. I've started to see a lot of this on several of the podcasts. People talk about the group ticks, the thread, and you know, I got I'm on a group thread that I'm receiving a message at 3 a.m. in the morning, my time. I'm on Pacific Coast time. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Right? But also, I've been on these group threads that go on and on and on. And then it trails off into other threads. And I'm still a part of it. And I just said, for my own sanity, my own safety, if you want to talk to me, pick up the phone and call me. You can send me a message, but I'm taking myself out of group threads, those text messages and those things. Why? Because people thought it was okay. I allowed that. I never said, hey, this is stressing me out. I get sick of seeing all these things and all the TikTok stuff that I'm not interested in, right? So again, that's something maybe on a small scale, but I'm talking about on even a larger scale. So when we talk about the unequal relationship pattern, let's unpack that for a second. See, overextension, it creates imbalance. You literally become the planner, you become the organizer, you become the emotional support, you become the problem solver, you become the financial contributor, the backup plan, and the list goes on and on. And others become consumers of your energy. How many times have someone said to me, oh, I vibe off your energy. You walk into a room and guess what? I'm just giving it away, right? Well, you just have to be cognizant of, who you are, whose you are, and what you are willing to give, because people will consume you. But you got to ask yourself this question: who checks on me? Now, I told you in December, some of you know that I'm bouncing back after several years of, some health challenges. And that question, I don't know. I'm just going to say, my Heavenly Father just said, you got to stop and think about this. Who checks on me? Who pours into me? Who supports my dreams? Or do people even ask, what is your dream? Who respects my time? Those are questions you should be asking yourself. And the answer, if the answer is no one, I'm here to tell you that's not loyalty. That's exploitation. Now, you may say, ouch. And I may be stepping on some of your toes, and some of you may or may not agree. But here's the deal. The real hard truth is this. Some people love your convenience, but not your presence. And when you finally set boundaries, they may call you selfish, distant, or changed. I've heard it. I've heard it all. And guess what? I don't care. Why? Because I needed to preserve me, right? Um, I listened to a sister, and I'm gonna call her out. And Money Glover, loved her talk. She's just. I felt like her message poured into me, and a lot of times, you're looking at, you're working, you're doing things, and you're saying, how come things aren't happening? Why is it that I give and I do and I go and I support and I listen? Her message just so resonated with me. I was like, thank you, Lord. So this is why I do unpack this, right? Because it's not about being selfish, distant, or unchanged. Hear me when I say this. But growth, y'all, if you don't take anything away from this, growth always disrupts comfort. It does. It does. Because people have been able to go along. You've allowed them to go along, to get along. But when you start growing, they're uncomfortable, right? So just think about, y'all, why overextending yourself becomes harmful, right? Yeah, I love this. So, and that's right, Miss Carla, I don't care. That's my word. I don't care. So people gonna say, they gonna do, they gonna talk, no matter what. And I always say this, listen, at the end of the day, what is important, if you have people who are pouring into stories or things that people are saying about you without them getting to know you, then those aren't people, or I should say, they ain't your people anyway, right? So let me just transition a little bit to when to say no. And again, I have to say this, no is not rejection. It's just simply redirection, y'all. That's literally what it is. And here are some signs for you when it's time to just say no. When your gut says no, your intuition is your internal alarm system or alarm clock, right? It's going off. It's ringing. You need to pay attention to it, right? If your gut feels heavy, if it feels tight, tense, you're feeling uneasy, your stomach is flip-flopping, you better listen, pay attention. Pay attention. Because that quiet voice that's inside of you is wisdom, not fear, right? Um, when saying yes costs you your peace, that's the second thing. When you need to say no. If helping someone means sacrificing your mental health, the answer should always be no. Peace, ladies and gentlemen, peace is not optional. It is essential. And here's another thing. When you're feeling obligated instead of aligned, just when you know you need to say no, because obligation simply says, I have to. Whereas alignment will say, I choose to. And if you're only saying yes out of guilt, fear, or a habit, hey, it's time to hit the pause button. Hit it and let it sit there for a minute. Now, another thing I want to share with you when you should say no is when there's no reciprocity, right? Relationships should not be one-sided. If you're always giving and never receiving, you're not in a relationship. You're in a transaction. plain and simple. So when we talk about how do I navigate this? Because for some of you, this is new. But I promise you, if you keep practicing, you know what they say, the more you practice, it becomes perfect. You perfect it. So you want to know, all right, I hear all of that, coach, but how do I establish boundaries without guilt? Well, allow me to share with you. First of all, boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. Do I need to say that again? Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks, right? And this is what they say. This is where I end. This is where you begin. This is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. So when we talk about establishing boundaries, all right, so here's some things. First of all, get clear on your limits. All of us have a limit, believe it or not. We really and truly do. So you got to ask yourself, what drains me? What energizes me? What am I willing to do? And what am I no longer willing to do? Okay? To me, this was my aha moment, December 2025. Clarity is power. Get clear. Some of y'all are so busy doing stuff, and I mean just doing stuff, that you've never taken the time to sit and just get clear. You don't even know how to sit still. Some of you can't sit still for 2 minutes without your mind wandering off and all over the place, right? But here's what you need to do. You need to understand you got to get clear. You got to be able to communicate simply. You don't need long explanations. Some of us, and I'm getting even better at it now, I write out what I'm going to say. And then when I look, it's like, what? Wow, that's a whole long explanation for why I'm saying no. No means no. So you don't need long explanations, y'all. And so let me give you an example. One of the things you can say is, I'm not able to take that on right now. I need to prioritize my commitments, right? And watch what happens when you say that, right? Some people, I've said it, and people like I just pulled the breath out of them, right? Yeah. But here's the other thing. You can also say, that doesn't work for me. And be okay with it. Stop right there. That doesn't work for me. I'm choosing to step back. Look, no apology required. I talk about being authentic. And when you are authentic, that brings out that honesty, that transparency. Look, be who you are, because there's no justification needed for you just saying no, because it all comes down to that no, right? I love this. I have to say, all right, don't wait for pain to become our teacher. Pain charges compound interest. Wisdom is much cheaper. And to that, I give you 2 snaps. Thank you so much. I love these comments. Keep them coming. But again, there's no justification needed for why you said what you said, right? And then you got to be prepared. You got to expect resistance, because there are going to be some folks that don't like the boundaries that you set with them, right? But you must remember this. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries, they will struggle with your boundaries. That doesn't make your boundaries wrong, you guys. It makes them necessary, right? So don't be afraid to set your boundaries and be okay with it. Hear me when I say that, okay? That is what is important, right? So I want to try to get to, in this period of time, talking about choosing yourself without shame, right? So hang in here with me. So here's your reframe. Choosing yourself is not selfish. Again, I say it's about survival. You're not selfish for resting. You're not selfish for saying no. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are responsible for your life, for your time, for your peace, for your purpose. And when you stop overextending, something powerful happens. You start attracting respect instead of dependency, reciprocity instead of exploitation, alignment instead of obligation. You begin to live intentionally, not reactively. So, you guys, this is what I want to leave you with. If you continue to overextend yourself, you will eventually break. But if you choose boundaries, you will finally breathe. Listen to your gut, honor your limits, respect your energy, because the world does not need a burned out version of you. It needs a whole, grounded, authentic version of you. And remember this: you don't owe everyone access to your life. I'll say that again. You don't owe everyone access to your life. You owe yourself honesty. Before you go, remember this: you are allowed to pause. You are allowed to say no. And you are allowed to choose yourself without explanation. So if today's conversation spoke to you, don't just listen, reflect, respond, and release what no longer serves you. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'm Gloria Bailey Ray, the Authentic Coach. And until next time, be honest with yourself, protect your peace, and keep unpacking and choosing you. I also encourage you to follow me, Gloria Bailey Ray. You can follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. And you can always go back and watch these episodes. But I really and truly hope that today did resonate with you. I hope that you gleaned and got something from this. So until this time, I'm on every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. We went over just a little bit, but I felt it was important that we continue to kick off and stay grounded in 2026, because it's all about us unpacking things that we know that we need to do. And that, my friend, is what is important. So thank you guys so much for being here with me. I really appreciate you. I love all of you. And until this time, next week, continue to unpack and be your true, authentic self. I'm out. Peace.